Hello.
All right. Thanks for staying with us. I promise it's going to be short and sweet. And unfortunately, Jonah has a meeting now, so cannot participate. But otherwise, he could have bring some spice. But still, thanks to his contribution to the question list. And I guess I'll welcome the panelists. And if anyone, everyone can introduce themselves maybe from Nadiem first, in case anyone just walked in the room. And also maybe I want to add a question to the intro is, what do you define as a solver today? As of like, there's a lot of new coming changes with like IntelOps and like user ops, like AA. And then the second question is, do you identify as a solver? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm Nadiem. I'm part of the Sprinter team. I've worked in financial engineering for almost 20 years, yeah, I am part of a solver team. And for me, a solver is kind of like a representation of an on-chain intermediary. And usually for me, they can do three things. They can be relayers. They can be relayers that have like a routing optimization. And then there can be solvers that additionally take a risk position in an asset.
Do you identify as a solver? Like
yes, yes.
Hi, I'm Katia. I run an on-chain RFQ protocol. I do agree with your definition of what solvers are, but I don't think I identify as a solver.
Okay.
Hey, I'm Markus, founder of Propellerheads. Hope to bring some of the Jonah spice back that he's not here. We used to be solvers, and we were just doing that for a while to understand the market better and what the most important issues are, and we're focusing on those now. And they summarize roughly at making the whole trade supply chain trustless, whereas today it's very much trusted. The first product that we built is a Rust library, completely open, that lets you have low latency simulations and execution over any liquidity that's available. And the goal is really to make users as close as possible to the protocol, so there's nothing in between them. They can really directly have all the logic. And yeah, we don't identify as a solver anymore. We did do that in the past, and we have an integration test that is a solver, but we're not that anymore.
So would you say you're now building solver infra, like to empower the solvers?
Yeah, that's the point.
Is the idea that you want to introduce more solver, or like as in basically more people can leverage the tool and like participate in the game?
Yeah, the idea is to have a much, much lower barrier to entry. There's a lot of people who have capacity to be a solver or something like that, like a searcher or a market maker, but they don't have the capital, they don't have the engineering power to do all these integrations. And I think if we bring them, then we'll have much more stability.
Gotcha. I will follow up on that later, but let's go to Tom.
Yeah, I'm Tom. I used to do like DeFi trading at Wintermute. I guess I trade a bit like myself now, help a few teams out. Yeah.
Do you identify as a retired solver?
I generally think that the term solver is like an overcomplicate. Like there's a lot of ETH has a lot of terms that I think are perhaps more complicated than they should be, or more confusing than they should be. I think like, yeah, I don't know. I think it's like basically some form of trading.
Okay. So I want to basically set the context with respect to the title of the panel, which includes liquidity, apps, and DEX in general. So just to set context, like what are I mean, all of you guys are kind of involved in the DEX trading scene and overall, basically like intense kind of scene. So what are the new changes you have seen across like DEX infra in the last year or so, and why do you think that matters?
I think one big change that we're seeing is that DEXs, or let's say protocols that use on-chain components, are starting to learn to incorporate information, additional information, into their swaps. Some of these makes the DEX less composable, but regardless, an example might be that you do a Oracle call after the user committed to the transaction to check that your price is not stale. right? This is one of the key issues with DEXs and prices. Still, turns out there's a couple of solutions. One rather straightforward one is that you just check some sort of oracle after the user committed to their trade.
Interesting. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me, a few things. I mean, one of them within the, let's say, intense world, cross-chain, I think is much more prevalent, much more common. It's branded as chain abstraction, but I think it's far from it. So I'm still quite confidently calling it cross-chain, but definitely lots of activity there. Quite a lot of it fairly centralized as well in terms of how the cross-chain messaging works. So kind of that's one angle. Another one I think is the use of credit or lending and borrowing markets within AMM. So I guess Fluid and now Euler Swap are two good examples of that. That definitely increases capital efficiency, but also creates certain, like concentration risk, concentration liquidity risks on basically utilization and LP rewards that seem to be negative in quite some situations. Yeah, and then another one is, and that comes with, I think the chains, like the faster chains, for example, so that are coming up, like Mega Ether Monad, we're definitely seeing more of the kind of basically central limit order book designs that are not possible really on ETH, but are possible on a much faster, much cheaper chain like Monad or Mega ETH.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I'm curious, like by talking to the customer or potential like basically partners, do you see actually there's a lot of real demand of like solving a cross-chain in terms of like, like cross-chain bridging or cross-chain swap, and how does that scale compared to like ETH layer 1 volume, etc.?
There's business in it. I mean, I think Sprinter, you guys do that. I mean, cross-chain solving is generally like a like inventory management, kind of like it's a cross-chain transfer type problem, right? And so I guess the margins are like not so. You can talk about this perhaps.
Yeah, I mean the cross-chain margins are like thin. Like they're you really have to do a lot of volume with cross-chain swaps to really earn revenue, and it's really about then like smart rebalancing, like having like a logic when you are getting your repayment, or do you wait to have like a batch repayment, and so it's really like you have to tweak the small things to get something out of the cross-chain transfers. Yeah.
Gotcha. Is it like most of the time now, these solvers who are doing cross-chain bridging or swapping, the market makers who are holding balance across chain, or is it like?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I don't know actually if that's the case. I think quite a lot of protocols do that. Like actually, like I don't know. I feel like that because you're talking at low margin. I don't know if market makers actually that like if it's like the best activity for a market maker to do that. But I definitely know that like a lot of cross-chain protocols do like basically for a lot of cross-chain protocols, the biggest solver on the protocol is their own solver that like at cost or with like very low margin would do that. Like dBridge do that, Across do that, and so on and so forth. So I actually think that like cross-chain kind of like USDC into USDC, kind of like ETH into ETH kind of activity is not as lucrative for a maker, just because of the ROI.
I see. I'm actually like curious, as a retired market maker, do you think that's interesting flow for, like, is there any incentive for any team to be the solver for cross-chain bridging?
I think generally it's like pretty capital inefficient. Like maybe there's some incidental flow to kind of
Incentive, as in like the protocol probably having potentially some kind of deal.
No. Incidental flow being like just people who happen to want to bridge, but then like probably let's say there's a big price move and there's like a lack of inventory on one chain, then someone if you have some like requirement to fill, let's say like.
I see.
Let's say you're forced to fill, then you'll be like selling your inventory really cheap.
I see. So like
because other people come to ARB, right?
Incentive as in like there is some arbitrage that can be taken somewhere else and across different prices.
I guess. I mean, like you probably get a outsized amount of kind of, I guess, toxic bridging, you could say, like
Okay.
flow
Yeah,
you didn't really
makes
wanna
sense.
know.
Yeah.
If you had like a forced requirement, right?
Yeah. Do you have anything to add earlier?
Yeah, on the DEX design, I think there's another interesting thing that we see people experimenting with is like toxic flow self-revelation. So you design it such that the toxic flow reveals itself through its behavior. For example, you delay the trading. Like toxic flow almost never wants to trade in a delayed manner, but users are fine to do that. So if you have like a speed bump or something, you can effectively filter, or you filter for anybody who's trying to push the pool by too much. And I've seen DEXs now experiment with this, where they dynamically increase the fee, so the DEX becomes responsive to the type of trading that happens on it.
Mhm. So actually, speaking of that question, I feel like one thing I see as, working at Flashbots, where we have like a OFA product where we talk to different, customer potentially to help them protect their users' flow from Sandwich as a private order flow. I do see that private order flow has been increasingly a trend, across the stack, where you see wallets are talking to OFA talking to block builder, auctioning it off, like map blocker, basically, will have all these, front-end flow from CowSwap, and I believe that might have been changed or changing because now solver can submit their flow themselves. I'm curious, like, if this private order flow trend is happening among like the solver infra, like the DEX routing layer as well, that you guys see.
Yes, I mean, for sure. I mean, to be fair, it's kind of like if you see these Twitter posts about a solver saying I'm top 3 solver on volume, this is mainly for getting order flow, because like, and we also do this. I mean, everybody is doing it. You have to kind of capture private order flow because there's much less competition. And in that sense, it's much easier to fulfill this order flow.
Okay, interesting. When you say private order flow for a solver, that means maybe a front end that exclusively using that router?
Yes, I mean, you have a wallet maybe, or someone who wants to offer like a white labeled RFQ. Then kind of in the back end, there might be a solver, and then like solver reputation helps here.
Got it. Interesting. I guess that potentially can increase the profit margin for solver business.
Yes, I mean, I think most of the solvers, like, I mean, I've talked about profitable solvers, and I think most of the solvers need to do this to like be profitable. I mean, just from solving at CowSwap, I think it's like 3 or 4 solvers, I think, that are profitable.
Yeah, okay, so we kind of now touched the profit topic, which is a interesting topic for solvers, right? Like, so, okay, I'll do like a survey. Do you guys think solver makes money today?
Define money.
Okay, do they make profit?
I think solvers can make profit because solvers can be very small teams, but I think I've seen solver teams from 1 person to like maybe 20 or more. And so a solver can make profit if it's like a very lean team, for sure. But yeah, it literally definitely depends on your expense as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of the solvers that are not profitable just on their solving protocol activities. If you take in all the other activities, I think there are much more solvers that are profitable. But if you just take the pure protocol activities, it's not the case. I mean, this was part of my presentation. I think, if you look at CowSwap, for example, the winning solver takes 15 times of what I believe the costs for running a solver are. So it's really of course, it's also debatable. I had some heated discussions about this, whether this is a good or bad. I mean, me personally, of course, I'm a bit opinionated because I am a solver. But I mean, I believe in systems in which the participants are rather service providers than competitors.
Yeah. So I'm gonna maybe drill a little bit on what Markus was saying earlier. Like you guys maybe basically open sourced a solving algorithm in Rust, and isn't that basically pushing the solver's profit even thinner if by introduce more competition? Like the whole basically idea that your team is pushing forward.
Right, it's always a balance, right? We haven't open sourced a solver, off-chain solver algorithm yet, but all of the infra that you need to power such an algorithm. Although we do have a grant with the EF now to also do an open source solver. Whether that's going to be designed to be something that's competitive is a different question. But yeah, you always have to balance whether you lower the barrier to entry, it will increase competition, it will narrow the profit margins. But if you don't do it, then there will be increasing modes and you will have centralization on the trading side, which you really don't want because users have today no choice but to go through solvers. And if it centralizes there, then you have the same monopoly pricing that you end up with in TradFi, or you're going down a similar path. I see it more as not a single solver that we talk to is proud of or enjoys doing these integrations. There's also no innovation in it. You just have to do it. Since there's nothing public, everyone has to do exactly the same work. It's hugely inefficient. There's literally hundreds of teams or close to 100 teams doing exactly the same thing. And solvers do enjoy building new products, writing better algorithms, and we've seen it with many of the most innovative solvers. They design new ways of providing liquidity into the market, like barter. They build features and apps on top of their solvers. I think this is ultimately what generates more value for the ecosystem and what is more rewarding for the engineering teams, because I can say from our perspective, it is not fun to repeatedly do integrations and not be able to do the actual exciting things you have in your mind.
Right. I feel like the exact same thing is happening again in all the layers, because like what I'm hearing is solver basically has to do the BD game, like trying to integrate as much like front-end flow and also liquidity side, similar to how like block builder basically has to now like go out to find the order flow as well and OF as well, and it just basically commoditized the product. It's not very exciting, but I want to maybe turn the table a little bit, right? Like, so you guys do confirm that solver can make money. What would be a bull case that like solver can make more money, or like what are the either from the auction from all those platforms, say CowSwap or Uniswap, those solver platform, or even Ethereum protocol side, that what are the changes that needs to happen for solver to be better, making more money, or like sustainable grow?
I mean, I think one thing is really protocol design. I mean, for example, CowSwap is coming up now with a new auction design, and I mean, let's see how it plays out, but I hope that it will change things, because right now, basically, there's only one winner of an auction, and hopefully, if this all works out, in the future, you can also be a niche solver and still be part of a batch and get your rewards. I mean, personally, I don't. I mean, I hope it will be different, but I think it will not solve completely the problem. But I think it really, like my belief is we have to change to more of a service provider than a competitor mindset, and we have to keep competition, but only for certain aspects of the solving stack.
I think for me, this is just the kind of structure of the fee structure across the stack. So, like wallets collect fees, like, 80 basis points, 100 basis points, maybe like 25 basis point minimum, as well as some front ends. CowSwap, for example, doesn't do that, right? So if CowSwap does not, they like half positive slippage, but that's okay, fair, right? That's like protocol fees, right? If as a protocol, you don't charge your users anything, it means that you can't share that with your solvers. I mean, obviously they give cow fees, right? But I mean, ultimately, if you can't even charge due to the competitive situation, if you can't even charge on the protocol level, where is the money gonna come from for the solvers, right? So basically, like that's where the massive gap is, right? So the gap is between like 80 basis points that a wallet would make versus maybe like 25 basis points that Uniswap front end would make versus 0 basis points that like any aggregator API would make, right? And so that there's just literally no fees to go to like a solver and to someone else and to someone else, right? So like I think it's kind of it's just like economically clear that like this money cannot come from anywhere.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm hearing what you're saying is like the pie is kind of small, and it's like we need to grow the pie basically together. And
well, we need to stop making things free, but because but the thing is, right, like I said, we need to stop making things free, right? Like that's also the beauty of DeFi, of course, right? Like the and solvers and all of that sort of stuff, right? Like the barrier of entry is literally your your brain power and your energy and your determination. Like that's it, right? You can enter the market with no little to no capital and be successful in it, right? And so that also means that for any protocol, the price competition is really high because someone can come in and like bring and build another protocol and basically compete on price that is no fee, and so it kind of like perpetuates the situation, right? Whereas of course, if you're looking at like very sticky things like wallets, for example, like that's much harder to disrupt, and so that's why they're able to charge the fees. So basically, it's a double-edged sword. I don't think it's feasible, because if the entire industry now decided to charge fees, right, that would be collusion. I don't think it's a very good way forward, but that's the reality that we live in.
Yeah, I think there's two things come to mind. One is that I think solvers, what's underappreciated, they have a last look at their transactions. Well, Builder has a last look. But yeah, from the info, they have the last look at the transaction, and they haven't historically made much use of that. I think some are now doing that, and there is a lot of value in that. But I think more importantly, I think what will happen is that the stack will become smaller, will become slimmer, and perhaps the teams with providing the most complicated services, such as the solvers, will dominate a larger part of the stack, and BD brand protocols that capture value by brand and charge based on that may maybe have a smaller role because their tech is easier to replace. And I think there's a good space, for example, for something such as a credibly neutral auction design that is permissionlessly accessible. Of course, there's some complications, but I think that it's ultimately something that could slim the stack and make things more profitable for solvers. The pie is certainly large enough. Users are willing to pay fees. There's a lot of volume, increasingly so. There's definitely a pie that solvers can share and be sustainable.
I generally agree with quite a lot of the sentiments. I guess like the general trend is like traders in general are competing against each other for bits, and like front ends and whatever things that have user ownership make like MetaMask makes like 75 bips on swaps. Coinbase makes 1.5%, and like it's I guess like if we spend a lot of time people are spending a lot of time trying to like make some trading auction like marginally more efficient. Maybe you can squeeze out another half a bip of value somewhere, whereas like front end users just don't care, right? Like they're paying like literally percentage points. I think like what I think most trading teams should be doing is, especially like smaller trading teams, is like thinking about like what are the actual products they can make, because products have user ownership. You can charge for products. I think this is where maybe not on ETH, but in other places, teams have had a lot of success. On Solana, like Hyperliquid is a very big example. It's just a trading team that has decided to build a product. And it's like a much more, I think it's like something that is much more valuable for a team to do than focus on like, I don't know, half a bit more of value, maybe unless you like Jump or something.
any response to that? Otherwise, yeah, I think we should wrap it up. But that was super good call out, I think. Auction and just slightly better, tweaks in the design seems to be the topic, and I'm on the MEV and solver corner, I would say. Like also, personally, I feel like in the last 1.5 years, and it's being, we're trying to do the same thing, but I haven't seen much momentum personally, but I'm very excited to be here actually this week and being very nervous tonight by all the new changes and proposals. But yeah, let's switch to the audience. Any question for anyone?
I have a question actually. You say that I guess these trading teams, solvers should think of themselves as service providers. What does that actually mean?
I mean, as I said before, I mean, I come from a like traditional background. I mean, and if you look at like a market maker there, for example, if you run an exchange and you're regulated, you need to have 2 delegated market makers, and usually they have a service agreement with the exchange. So I think like we have this mindset, like I think from the Wild West days that we come from, like you are an MEV searcher, you're fighting for your MEV, and there's a chance that you get rich. But I think this is like how we grew up. But I think we have to change more towards, okay, there is like a basic service like running a cloud server or something, because like solving in the end, like, as Markus said, I mean, everybody is doing the same thing. Like it's really like it's the same stuff that everybody's doing, and it could be just like a service that someone is running, and you need a set of solvers to maintain some decentralized protection against someone dominating the price. But in the end, it's like you should. I feel you should make it less sexy to be a solver, like because it has this like rockstar image from the MEV days, I think.
Right. I mean, I guess on like most exchanges, your like market maker with service level agreements still has to compete in some way. Like it's not just like I run this thing. It's still like somewhat. It's not just like I'm running a server for you or something, right? I guess like you're basically suggesting to have. You're basically encouraging to have like enshrined off, like not. Like you basically want off-chain deals for everyone.
No. Actually, like my vision would be that, like, I don't know if this will be happen, that there will be a time where we have local agents running on your machine, on your mobile, as an extension to your wallet, that basically have access to a solving stack, and that every user can run the solving themselves.
Right. So you're like selling the software, not doing the actions, I guess.
Sorry?
You're like selling some code for someone to run.
Yes. So like the intermediary step goes into the software rather than actually an agent that is doing something for you.
Cool. Thank you so much for the panelists, and that concludes the plenum. Thank you.